What is up, DTube library? So today I want to talk a little bit about why I did a HEX Chad Alpha Man 555 stake. So I started to explore a little bit with so in the beginning I didn't really um, consider the 555 stake. 5555 four fives in a row. It is a 15.22 years stake. It's the longest stake you can do in HEX. So, but now when I seen the amazing performance of HEX, I wanted to restake a little bit. So I did an emergency end stake, and it was really interesting because it was around 1 million hex, and the penalty. So it was a stake that would end late 2021, and it had served maybe 140 days, and it was supposed to go for 700 days. One thing that kind of surprised me was the penalty wasn't really that big, so the emergency end stake seems to be kind of worth it if a person realized that the share price is what you really want in HEX more than the big payday. So I think you get 3x the shares if you stake for 10 years. So I did an emergency end stake because I wanted to do 1 million hex 5 days, just because, well, it's, you see how the share price and you do the math and it's like, okay, maybe we should look at this a little bit more and do a 5 stake. So I had 1,160,000 hex emergency end stake after 140 days. It was supposed to go for 700 days, and I got 1,092,356 coins that I then staked for 5 days. And I want to talk a little bit about the math here that I kind of see at the moment. So this math may not be perfect. It may also not be accurate, but I think this is kind of how it works. So at the moment, this almost 1.1 million hex stake for 5 days, it is having a annual percentage yield of an APY of 27%, 0.13%, and that is basically per year. So it says on hex.live, combined API in hex based on earned, accrued, and penalized APIs, time weighted, may be underestimated since the projection is not accounting for the big payday bonus and the share price increase. So what's kind of interesting here is, so that 27% APY for a 15-year stake, I think how it kind of works is, so the average time people have locked in $259 million for is 4.5 years. And how I guess it works is if you stake double that, you get double kind of the interest. I think that's kind of almost how it works here. If you stake shorter, you get maybe 11% annual percentage yield at the moment. And if you stake the median length 4.5 years, I think you get that like 15 or 16% kind of yield. Now, obviously, these numbers change if people lock for longer or shorter, or if how people interact change, that changes. But what's fascinating here is, okay, so 15-year stake, a million hex, it would have if you would have the same kind of annual percentage yield for 15 years, then the total percentage yield in hex over the total time. So when all the stakes are completed, maybe underestimated since the projection. So if you would take that for 15 years, that would be 3,750, 3,000, almost 4,000% yield as interest over a 15-year period, and that doesn't even include the big payday. So, so that's kind of interesting, right? Um, so a big payday would be a 4.5x also. So if you would just do 30% for 15 years, let's try that out. So, and this math may not be accurate at all, but it kind of seems like it is. So if I take, so if I basically take the 1.1 million times 27% and I double it 15 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, you get up to 39 million hex. Now, if you would also have the big payday included, which is a 5.4x on a 10-year or longer kind of stake, then it would be 200. It would be a 200x from the principal. So it would go from a million hex to 200 million hex in 15 years. And what's kind of interesting is the share price. Like, so you see how this whole system is kind of designed, really heavily designed on longer pays better. I mean, really, like it is like people that stake for just 3 years or 4 years, they're missing out so much compared to people that kind of going 15 years, right? So it's very, very fascinating when you run the math. And yeah, I mean, if you look at the daily interest at the moment of almost 1.1 million hex 5555555 stake, it's around 800 hex per day. And 800 hex per day times 365, that's almost 300k hex per year. And if you would kind of keep on compounding that with the share price that always goes up, it gets really interesting, right? So when people are ending stakes, their shares are kind of expiring and they no longer exist. And people that are in for longer, they get larger pie of the kind of the share price pool. So even if this math may be 100% off, it may just be like, let's see. If we would take, so with the big payday at the moment on 1.1 million hex, if you add in the principal and the big payday, you would get around 8.5 million hex. Let's just do some simpler, lower math. So let's just take 8.5 million times 15% and then go that by 15 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, you still get up to like 68 million hex. It's used a lot of hex, right? So even if we're a little bit modest, okay, so let's say 8.5 million with the big payday. Let's just say 3% per year. Let's do that for 15 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Even with just 3% per year, you would still end up with like 14 million hacks, which would be a 14x relative to the kind of principle you started with. So either way, like 10x, 200x, it's just mad gains, right? So Hex Chads benefits the most with this system because the game theory in Hex, the smart contracts, how it works is longer pays better. Really, like bigger pays better doesn't really pay that much more. Um, it pays, what was it, maybe around 10% extra or something like that if you have like a huge kind of stake. So it's kind of fascinating. I want to do a video about the economic superiority of hexers eventually, because it seems like, well, if you look at how hex is going right now, it seems like in like 60 days it can already be like a top 12 crypto or something like that, and it's already top 19 crypto. So it's going to be in the top 10 crypto quite soon, and it's quite a big milestone. And the moment it is on the front page of CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, there's probably going to be way more volume coming in, I've been running the math. It takes around $42 million to push HEX up to 3.5 cents, and it takes only $7 million to push HEX up to 1 cent. This is also why, like this mad pump we got in April, that was used from a couple of $1 million. I think around 2 to maybe $4 million or something like that. I think it actually was like $2 or $3 million that made this like impressive kind of 100x kind of pump. So people think this is like a big kind of pump going on here. No, it's just a couple of $1 million. Uh, yeah, so it's like really, really early in. And it's going to be very interesting with the big payday on November 19th, 2020, because right after that, the share price is going to spike, and it seems like it can go up, or it makes so you get half the shares only right after, or maybe just a third right after, because people may take profit, right? So 2020 is probably just going to be a blip on the radar in the long term of HEX. Uh, so because the share price, you're only going to start to really see it going exponential after 2020, after the AA, the adoption amplifier. So just because we're in the launch phase at the moment and have always new coins coming out, it probably makes it so the price is going to be a bit modest in 2020. But after this kind of period is over and people only can get coins from maybe some exchange, either centralized exchange or Uniswap, it makes it way more kind of exciting. And also when people maybe even have, if they really want to do margin trading and get wrecked, we're probably going to have HEX margin trading in the future, which I don't recommend. It probably is very bad for people. They probably will do 100x or 1000x or a million x or 10,000x more by just sitting on their value and doing nothing. So very fun project to follow. Trustless interest for the mainstream masses. These 5555 stakes are just cool because as people have been saying, it's like people are gonna feel richer the whole period. So you have this kind of cool effect with HEX where people feel richer during the whole period, even when they do not cash out. And then also if they kind of see it go up, it can go to zero. No expectations, no promises with this HEX smart contract. But if it would just like slowly rise during a period of 15 years, like people are gonna become very creative at how can they. So we have this large pie here, but you can still grow it even larger by doing YouTube videos and like telling people that maybe you want to get in, right? Because this pie is large. You have a bunch of tokens, and you have a unit system, which I think the smallest unit is what 50 500 billion hex. I think that's 50 quintillion hearts units. So each hex can divide it up to 100 million hearts. So you have this unit system where you have enough coins to not run into the problems that Bitcoin has, where someone has 0.0001, where they feel kind of very poor, and Bitcoin is not really working that well for digital gold, with that unit problem of only 21 million Bitcoin, and nobody's really using the Satoshis, and it's very hard to even trade Satoshis on many exchanges. You need to at least transfer or buy for like $5 or $10 before you can even access Bitcoin. And then you have other problems with Bitcoin that is slow. It's not really used as digital cash. It's mainly just used by margin trading platforms to kind of wreck people. So there's just a lot of good stuff going on with HEX. Very good design. Like people don't even realize how amazing this design is. And I see a lot of people being in denial, Cardano fanboys, XRP fanboys, EOS fanboys, Hive fanboys. There's a lot of people that think they're gonna make more by being part of a horrible project, or a project that doesn't even have, that is not even complete. So Cardano has nothing out at the moment. Maybe they will release something someday, who knows? But we've seen with other stuff like EOS, nothing is really happening. EOS said that they were going to do a bunch of stuff. 2017, 2018 came, 2019 came, 2020 came. Nothing's really happening because the world is mediocre, and there's just a lot of nonsense going on. So it makes the most amount of sense to just have to do a simple system that just prints value and reward people that are way more long term and kind of locking up coins and are more in it to win it than in it to dump it. So a lot of these other coins, they have these communities that always look at how they can make short profits here and there. And I even see it in HEX. A lot of people that stake very short, 30 days, 7 days, even just 300 days, 180 days, even like 600 days. It's not really that long, man. Like, they're gonna miss out so much big time when the share price goes up. And when the share price goes up, you cannot get a good deal anymore. It's like, it's kind of over. Like, you have to buy for higher, or you're getting way less shares, which means you're getting smaller piece of the pie, which is not as fun. And if we get this ETH 2.0, maybe we get double coins. So that means that a person may even double their HEX on a new chain. So it's like, that can be a lot of value, right? So ETH 2.0 should come out eventually, and it's going to be very, very fascinating to see. I see Vitalik is talking a little bit about it on the Twitter. They're doing some progress. I still enjoy Ethereum, but I see the problems with it, especially with scaling issues, like the gas fees are very high again. And it would be nice if it went down to 3 cents or 5 cents again. So that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Chad stakes looks like they're going to perform extremely well. If it's just a 10x or a 200x, who knows? But math is math. And I think a lot of people are going to regret if they do short stakes. And I mean, we see already that people have insanely long stakes, like 4.5 years, and they're not going to sell. And if they would end stake, they're going to pay penalties. So, yeah. Have a great day, DTube and Library.